What if I told you that Italy was actually split in half for a part of World War II? This is the story of the Italian Social Republic. And Italy, between 1943 and the end of the war in 1945, was split in half. The northern half was controlled by Nazi Germany and was protected largely under Adolf Hitler's Wehrmacht. This, of course, was the Italian Social Republic. And this chunk of Italy was where Hitler put Benito Mussolini to rule and have him restored as what he believed to be the literal ruler of fascist Italy. They claimed full jurisdiction of the Italian peninsula. However, for all practical sake, they only had about the northern 60% of it. The southern 40% of the Italian peninsula remained officially under the Republic of Italy, the traditional government of the peninsula. However, Mussolini was driven out of that area by partisans and had to flee Rome and move north. The Italian Social Republic was allied with Nazi Germany. The Republic of Italy, on the other hand, after June of 1943, actually started secret negotiations and communications with the Western Allies. And the new government down there actually became the fifth Allied power at the end of the war. So half of the Italian peninsula had actually switched sides. This is one thing that they never tell you in history class, is that Italy was half Western ally at the end of the war. And it turns out being that the Western Allies were the friends that they needed all along. This happened, of course, after the Allied forces overran the Germans in North Africa and Rommel's army. The next logical step was to cross the Mediterranean, and then this is how they entered Italy through Sicily. And so the initial invasion was in Sicily, the island, and then of course they crossed the strait into the Boot Hill or mainland Italy. They advanced to a line that would allow them to control about 40% of the Italian peninsula. They took over the government of the Republic of Italy because they did reach and pass the city of Rome. Now, the Italian Social Republic and Mussolini officially declared de facto that Rome was their capital, but as far as de facto reality is concerned, the Italian Social Republic became known as the Salo Republic because Salo was where Mussolini set up his seat of government because Rome was clearly unavailable at this point. And the Italian Social Republic eventually fell apart because internal partisans even within the ISR were very, very fed up with Mussolini. They eventually captured him and executed him in, I think it's late March of 1945. They eventually captured him and executed him. And naturally, at this point, the Italian Social Republic fell apart without Il Duce. That was his nickname, in charge. And it fell apart in very rapid fashion in that, Mussolini's execution happened in March of 1945. By April 29th of 1945, the Italian Social Republic, actually it's called the RSI, not the ISR. The RSI military surrendered on April 29th of 1945, which, not coincidentally, is the same day that Hitler committed suicide in the Fuhrer bunker. And with their surrender, Italy was one country again, and it wound up being in one country under the Western Allies umbrella. And the fall of Berlin did not happen until a few days later, May 8th of 1945. But during this short period, Italy was actually a full member of the Western Allies. Because by this point, the Western Allies militarily then controlled the entire country. This period between 1943 and 1945 went down in history as the Italian Civil War, because the Allies controlled one portion of the peninsula, and the slight majority of the peninsula was geographically covered by Nazi Germany, the Italian Social Republic. Basically, also Hitler's Wehrmacht was really the military force there, because by this point the Italian army under Mussolini was severely weakened. They had been just booted off the African continent, and Hitler had to commit his forces to prop up his very weak and, quite frankly, ineffective ally, Mussolini. The fact that he had spent so much of his time and energy and effort on the Italian peninsula eventually, I believe, did contribute to the fall of Berlin. And after they got wiped out in late 1945, and then Hitler committed suicide coincidentally on the same, well, not coincidentally, on the same day, Italy wound up with, particularly northern Italy, particularly southern Italy, the Republic of Italy wound up with, to be quite frankly and honestly, the ally they needed all along in the form of the United States. They became Hitler's ally because, let's be honest, if your entire platform is built on eradicating an entire race of people and killing millions of Jews, you're not going to have a lot of people lining up by your door to be a friend either. Except Mussolini was also being a fascist, and they shared political ideologies. But in the end, Italy was so weak that Germany could only do so much to prop it up. And this pouring of resources south into Italy was a major factor. It was not the only factor, but it was a major factor that cost Nazi Germany the war. So for the last 2 years, those resources were spent on the Italian Social Republic. Mussolini's rump government, which controlled about the northern 60% of the Italian peninsula, but not the city of Rome, the traditional seat of Italian government. Also of note is that the Vatican City did not support the ISR in any shape or form. They vehemently opposed it, along with Nazi Germany itself, given their location adjacent and as an enclave of Rome. This was a very logical stance militarily for them to take, because the Allied armies were going to protect them should, on the very low chance, that Mussolini would try to move south and invade them, which never happened, of course. So this is the story of the Italian Social Republic and a split Italy from 1943 to the end of the war and the surrender of fascist forces on April 29th of 1945. Happy Hump Day, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed your week and it's going well for you. All is well and blessed here as well. So you folks have a good rest of the week. Peace out, homies.